Welcome everyone. Really happy to see you all today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. I see a bunch of folks all over the place. We'll try to keep it interactive. We have a wonderful guest here today. So before I do that, just me to introduce myself. I'm Vinod Iyengar. I'm the head of products at H2O.ai. I've been with the company for about 7 years, and in the time, I've had a chance to work with a lot of our marquee customers, including AT&T, understand their needs, build products that solve the whole gamut of use cases across, starting from data engineering to all the way to data science and DevOps, data MLOps, putting all to production. Folks who have seen H2O's presentation before in the past, you might have been familiar with our AI Cloud platform, which is how we bring all the tools together to our customers. And one of the key aspects of that over the last sort of 18 months, we realized is that as customers reached a stage of maturity, they needed to bring in their data in a sensible fashion for machine purposes. And the need for feature store, the germ of the idea came about. And of course, the industry itself is moving that way, but we realized as we doing that. And our counterparts at AT&T also came to this conclusion on their own as they were going through this journey. And we came together to join forces and build this product together. So super excited to talk about that. I want to first introduce our guest today, Prince Paulraj. He is the AVP of Data Insights in the Chief Data Office at AT&T. And he's been a long-time supporter of the platform. He's been the key architect, so to speak, in helping us drive this initiative at AT&T, funding this project and getting this built. So I'm super excited to bring Prince on. Prince, welcome. Maybe you can introduce yourself in a few words, your background.
Thank you, Vinod. I'm really excited to be here today. So let me introduce myself. I'm Prince Paulraj. Here in AT&T for close to a decade now. So we put data and AI first across our organizations. That's the bread and butter for us. So where we can, apply data insights, where we can apply machine learning model, and how we can make an impact, in the company's cost savings or cost, avoidance standpoints. That's the prime goal. So in a nutshell, we work with the multiple vertical, either fraud or credit and collections, supply chain and tax. You name any verticals. We really work on using some data and AI to make an impact. So that's pretty much about me, that what I do in AT&T. One of the things that I just want to highlight in the context of the meet today is the feature store. So like I said, we have multiple machine learning assets that's available in our AT&T, right, in multiple places. So we were always wondering that, hey, how can we have all these assets in one place, and how we can bring the speed to the market, right, and how we can reuse it, and how we can just avoid coding again and again. So there is a lot of cool things about the feature store, and that's the objective of why we just want to partner with the H2O, and H2O being one of the great partnership there. Even for many years, I would say, in the AI space. So we love to partner with H2O and do a co-development of this feature store. So Vinod, back to you, and let's get into the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start sharing my screen here real quickly. Before I do that, I want to make sure that none of these notifications bother us for the next hour. Perfect. Slide share. Share screen. Okay. So thank you, Prince. So I'll go through a few slides just to set the stage as to why we started building Feature Store. We talk about the innovation, the sort of key problems we face, and then I want to bring that back to the real stories of what we see at AT&T and what we've seen at other customers as well, so that it's not just abstract, but it's real, and you can see what kind of problems Feature Store is setting out to solve. So before we start, what are the key problems today? Right. So today, when data scientists or data engineers and data science teams come together to build models, they are doing this in a variety of different environments. Right. So these are people building this in Azure, AWS, Databricks, SageMaker, sometimes Databricks environments, Snowflake. Your ETL pipelines are coming from all different places. Data is being munched from all these different places. H2O's own driverless AI engine does feature engineering for you automatically, or you can just use plain old Python and Jupyter notebooks. Doesn't matter. So data scientists, everyone has their preference. Data engineers have their preference. They all have different tools. The problem is these pipelines are built on these different environments and they are not reusable. So what ends up happening is in a single enterprise, a lot of these data sets or feature sets are being created again and again and again, right? And not just across teams, which is across BUs, across even sometimes within teams, people may not don't have a good way to share this, right? We've all seen those, right? The huge spreadsheets with list of pipelines or list of versions, or people just maintaining Jupyter notebooks with version 1.3, like 10.3.1, final underscore final, right? That kind of stuff happens. People share pipelines, how to share code with each other. Sometimes they put it into GitHub, but there is no such a discovery. How do you know that there is some amazing feature that someone has built in their organization that could be beneficial for me as well? Right. So that is a fundamental problem that we currently face. And this happens for organizations which reach a stage of maturity where you're building a lot of models. We have a lot of data science teams. You actually are getting to the next stage, right? Maybe I'll take Prince's view over here. Right? I think you saw this happen quite a bit at AT&T as well, right?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I would say from the data science, standpoint, or if you look at the entire AI lifecycle, right? So there is 60 to 80% of the time we spend on doing the feature engineering, right? So that's what the data scientists, they would do. They have to go and find data, then they do the engineering and creating those valuable features if they are going after some prediction problem, and how much an impact that features can do, right? So that's where they spend most of the time, right? Even if you take an existing model and you want to lift the accuracy of the model, you got to do that. Either you do a feature predictions or finding more new features to make an impact, right? So I think if you look at the technology evolution standpoint also, people are not anymore just with the forecasting model, right? They want a demand sensing. In other words, like you want to make the real time features also playing into a big role of, if you are making some sort of a predictions. So in nutshell, I mean, when you spend 60 to 80% of your time, when I call it data scientist or ML engineer or a data engineers, in fact, all these personas kind of work together in order to, create this model, right? So when you spend that quality time of looking at your AI lifecycle, it is important to keep those, those features in one centralized place, right? Because like Vinod mentioned, we do have in AT&T multiple data pipelines, right? Because it's not something that we started doing at data science now. In fact, AT&T is the first company who coined the name of the word of an AI, right, in the industry. But when we do this all machine learning models, people develop right from the R, right? R, they use R as a pipeline, R Cloud as a pipeline, Python, Jupyter pipeline. And then the organization also have some sort of a vendor products, right? Because of some strategic decision or because of some strength that they bring in into this AI lifecycle. So we have multiple products in AT&T as well like that. So we have more than like 5 to 7 pipelines out there. But each pipeline you are spending 60 to 80% of your time creating those valuable features. So the whole idea is like when Vinod mentioned, if you have these features been computed or generated in those pipelines, you keep it in one feature store, then now I'm in one pipeline, now Vinod is coming in another pipeline. He no need to reinvent the wheel, right? Most of the time, if you see the features that I created could be useful to Vinod, right? So Vinod is coming in another pipeline. Simply can go and do the lookup in the feature store, shop around those features, and then he can reuse it, right? Number one, the features are getting reused across multiple pipeline, right? And now I'm in a fraud team, probably Vinod is in credit and collections team, totally two different team, but that we can able to make use of those things, right? So that's where this sharing of these features, but if you keep it in one place, of course, the access control going to play a big role. What features I can access, what features that Vinod can access. But we have a strong security has been built around this feature store. That's really helping us to democratize these features in a secured manner, in an encrypted fashion, in a masked fashion, so we can reuse these all features. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and we can go fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And great point, Prince. And that's a good segue. But let me just go through some of these other items which are also key. And I'm curious, and please share in the chat or the Q&A if you face these issues in your organization as well, or if you're facing different issues We love to hear those as well, right? So we want to keep this attractive. So another key point that Prince mentioned is important, right? As you do this over time, you will also have the problem of inconsistent features, like meaning people recoding some of those features slightly differently, right? So a classic case I always like to think about is that you do like, what is the average usage of average like, text volume or average usage of a subscriber, right? That's a simple question, but what does average mean? Is it average over a month or a year or a week? Does it last 30 days? And there's each user will try to recreate in a different way. And you end up with basically a plethora of these sort of different sort of average consumer feature that is used, and you can, and some of them might be more better than others, but because people don't know any better, they will recreate those, right? So you want to avoid those kind of issues, right? Like this is a standard feature. You know what an average consumer looks like, and you have, let's say, canonical way of building it. Obviously, we don't want to restrict data scientists from they can create new features all the time. But if there's something already in place, start with that. So the way we think about this feature store, what's the right starting point? In the absence of a feature store, you go through your data stores, you find different tables, you try to just join them, you try to create stuff on your own. And that's often a very suboptimal way of doing it because you're reinventing the wheel all over again. So that's a key point. I want to talk about a couple other things, and then I want to bring Prince to the point he made, right? So as you do this process, right, other things we realize is data scientists and even these organizations face another problem of over time, you create these features and these pipelines, and this data needs to be then tracked because these models are now making significant predictions, let's say, and whether you are in a regulated industry or not, often like governance becomes important. You need to know what feature went into a particular model. How do you track the version? How do you know what exactly happened, right? And in the absence of feature stories, some people often maintain these pipelines. Like I said, they will put them into Gits and they'll track them, but it's very difficult to go back and say what exact version of the feature or feature data set went into a particular problem. And that can cause all kinds of issues if you want to go back and audit. Let's say some model failed in production, you want to go back and audit. I had one story I'll tell you about this one customer where they were asked for an audit, and about 300 people were called. They had to spend about almost like 2 to 3 weeks collecting all the audit logs across different bases, find out who built the data, who approved the feature, who got access to it, who built the model, and who approved the model and who put it in production. And it was painful because all of this were happening in different environments. They had to go back and try, hey, who ran that original query? So it sounds very painful because it was, right? And we wanted to avoid issues like that. So I'm curious, Prince, if you have those kind of issues in AT&T as well, how did you think about them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, right? I mean, this is not a problem of it's a small company or mid-sized company or a big company, right? And initial days we used to think this feature store is nice to have, not anymore, right? We want to have some principled approach towards keeping our data, right, and keeping our features and providing that lineage, right? I mean, I would say that sometimes people, they have these features in their laptop, right? The most common problem, if you look at it, reproducibility of your model, right? Like I said, I mean, you mentioned 60 to 80% of your time on those features, and you build a model and you deploy the model in production. And let's say there is some data drift or feature drifting is happening. Now you want to go and rebuild the model, and you don't have those features that you used. Okay, either you are regenerating it, or the features what you had, it's got stale, it's not version controlled. All these points that Vinod was talking about, it's come into play if somebody's asking you to just reproduce the model, right? So obviously, I mean, that's why I'm saying it's not anymore, nice to have our size, a mid-sized company, but even the people who are starting their journey, part of the AI maturity, even in the beginning stage, why don't they have some sort of a discipline in place and keeping these features in one place so that you can version control it? And some of the cool things happens also in our team that I would say, again, I'll take two personas like me and Vinod. Let's say I went and created one particular features. Let's say I'm trying to predict house value, all right? And I found that a feature of the number of rooms as a good feature, and I created that. But Vinod coming to the feature store, and he's looking at trying to predict. He's trying to move from California to Texas, and he's trying to find that which house that, or rental neighborhood that he want to go there, right? So he's building a model for that. And but the features that I created, the number of rooms, or the crime rate in that particular neighborhood, or the square feet of the house, the goods, the ISD, the school, the good schools around that neighborhood. If I created those features, obviously those features could be useful for Vinod, right? So, and now I kept and check, it's kind of like a GitHub, right? We check out the code and we do some modification and check in the code. Similar fashion, you can take the features from a feature store, kind of checking out, and then now Vinod can add and try these features with his model. And let's say it's contributing good, then Vinod is also providing some more features to it and he's checking into it, the feature store. So now it's not just a benefit for Vinod because he reused my features, but guess what? Now Vinod also checked in some new features. All right, so now I can take my model and I can see that, oh, maybe I can just shop around some other features that Vinod has created, which is relevant to the house pricing prediction model, right? So that's the kind of it's become like a team sport, and sharing this valuable these features across the teams, or sometimes even it works across the corporates. But right from you do it, even when you're a small company, and that's really helps this entire the lineage problem that what we are facing.
Yeah. And I think the final piece I will mention is this. I think the key is that once features are created, they need to be available. You don't need to recode them again when you need them for online serving. So that's a key part. I think in the feature store, you have to do this. Application developers or your data engineers have to recode it for, let's say, real-time lookups, online cache. And that's another extra like effort that you need to put in. Sometimes your recode and errors might creep in when you try to recode those features, right? So what if you could do this all, define the features once and then make them available both for offline and online, right? So that's one of those. So there's I'd say big issues we were facing, our customers are facing, and even AT&T that we set out to solve. So let me get to the next screen really quick. And so basically what do you get for the feature store, right? So at a high level, think about this, you get essentially a mirror database. It is a feature store is a store. It is a store for your feature sets that are being created by your data engineers or data scientists. We ensure that it is kept between the online and offline store. These are two databases essentially that will be kept consistent between the features for training and scoring time. So if you need the same feature for online scoring, you don't have to recode it, you get the same exact feature. So that's a very key concept of feature store, right? It brings in a unified way for importing, ingesting both batch and streaming features. So whether your data comes from batch environments or streaming, you have a single way of ingesting it to the feature store and using it across. The feature store is built to be scalable. It is a key requirement. And we like at an AT&T, for example, you see, I think petabytes of data come in every day across call records, across web traffic, and so on, right? So the feature store needs to be able to scale. So you ensuring that you have a framework or you have an architecture that can scale is critical. Similarly, we want to be able to provide capabilities like versioning and time travel. Versioning, we talked about this, so that you can go back and always check what version the data was used for your features. And then time travel is a really important concept because it allows you to do point-in-time snapshots of a feature set. If you, for example, if you want to do back testing, if you want to know how exactly did the model behave in a point in time in the past, doing that would require multiple queries or a lot of loops and stuff to generate that original data set. But in Feature Store, that's a native functionality. You just request as a timestamp, and then Feature Store will recreate the data set for you. So those are like the high-level benefits of the Feature Store, right? So Feature Store needs to provide these capabilities at a minimum. And then, of course, we do a lot more things, but these are the things that we started off doing. And then how it works is it's really simple, right? So just to get it's like, I know in the poll, we saw that a lot of folks did not have familiarity Feature Store. So very simple. Feature Store, essentially, consists of three stores. It has the offline store, has the online store, and it has a metadata registry. So three key components, right? So the data can come in from different feature engineering pipelines, whether, like I said, for batch or streaming or real-time sources through these pipelines. And these pipelines could be like, and we have native clients for Azure or Databricks, Snowflake, Teradata, and just Python, right? And of course, Driverless AI has its own connector as well. So you use those connectors or clients directly to connect to Feature Store. From the environment you're already writing your pipelines in, you just push the features to the Feature Store. you save them in the offline store. And if you need that feature to be available online, you just turn on the flag. And then all the metadata of the features is stored as well, like including summary statistics, who created the feature, when was it built, how long should it be. And this metadata is critical for search and discovery. Excuse me. And then once that is done, we can do cool things like we can provide recommendations, we can provide a rank of features, we can also help do things like drift detection, bias identification, identify anomalies, data quality checks for you. And then how do you consume the features is very simple. You have three modes of consumption. Primarily, it's for model training. If a new data scientist, the new user wants to come in, they can just retrieve the features from the feature store for model training. Or if they want to do predictions, they can do batch predictions or real-time predictions for an online use case. So this is how you consume the features. This is how you bring the features in. It's as simple as that, right? The key is to be able to enable reuse of all the features or all the intelligence in your organization. Do it in a way that is secure and also adheres to your governance standards. So that means that only the right people have access to the right kind of data. And finally, make it really easy to put models in production because your online serving is taken care of for you. So that's in a nutshell, the high level value and benefit of Feature Store. So how do you go about it? Like I said, we have all these integrations. We have the ability to create a project. We can register feature sets. We can ingest data from different environments. We have permissioning built into the platform. And we'll show all these things in a second. So hold bear with us, right? So hold on. We'll show you a demo of how you would access this in the H2O Feature Store. And then we have a really nice GUI as well. We have a web interface to go and search and discover and update features. And we have a nice API as well to do the same things, right? Like I mentioned before, we already have native integrations to Databricks, Snowflake, H2O Driverless AI, and Python. But we have more integrations as well deployed. So it's very easy for us to add a client. So we have a really general purpose client that can be extensible for accessing the feature store. The piece I want to talk about is all the capabilities we've also added to the platform, right? We have now the ability to connect a single sign-on. Authentication is key because as we do work with enterprises, large enterprises, AT&T and others, ensure that the right people have the right access to it. So we can take advantage of single sign-on that exists in the organization, connect to that. Permissioning is a native first-class functionality in the feature store. All feature sets are by default read-only, but they can be made accessible to others, and people can then see only features that are available to them based on their permission or statuses. We want to ensure that people can see all the versions as well. You can always go back to a version of the feature set which was created at any point of time. You can do time travel on that. And you can ingest and retrieve the data frames based on your use cases. And all this is available through the different runtimes and different environments, and also from the GUI as well. A key point about the personas, and I would love to have Prince your take on this as well. Feature Store is a key part of the workflow because it really brings together multiple personas. You have data scientists who are consumers of the features in the feature store. You have data engineers who are often the creators or the authors of the feature sets, and then you have DevOps or MLOps users who might be consuming the feature endpoints for their MLOps or for modern deployments. And it's a linchpin for the AI platforms of the future because it needs to be able to bring all these personas and seamlessly interact with them, have the handouts nicely done. I'm curious to see what you see at AT&T.
So absolutely. So it's not just one personas, right? I mean, like I mentioned, making this AI model, it's a team sport, right? So the data scientist will be saying, okay, I want all these data sets. The data engineers getting the data for that, right? And then they will just massage the data. Then, they take care of the quality of the data before they are handing over to the data scientist. Then the data scientist actually, taking those data and creating this valuable features, which supports, whatever the problem statement they are going after, either prediction or optimization or classification sort of a problems, right? So then handing over this model to put it in production, with the help of the DevOps and model ops people, right? Because that's the third step. It happens in the journey. Not necessarily the data scientists who build the model know the SLA of the model, how that's supposed to perform in production, right? So if you see already, there are three personas involved in creating that AI. But unfortunately, when it going from data scientists to the production people who's going to put, they are rewriting some of the features lookup. Okay, why? Because it's not going to perform in some sort of an SLA that you need to perform in millisecond, sub-second sort of a requirement, right? Especially when a model has been inserted part of your business workflow. So that's where this feature store is really helping. When you have this multiple personas in place, they all can talk to the feature store, right? The data engineers putting the features, ingesting the features into the feature store, right? The data scientists consuming it, and they're creating this meaningful machine learning models. And more than anything, they can also create multiple versions of those models, because data science is an iterations. It's not going to be the first model going to have like a great the accuracy, right? So they can also maintain that versions, right? And then and there, actually, they are enabling this DevOps or model ops people to go and deploy it. So when they deploy for the model inferencing or scoring time, all they can do is simply they can do the lookup to the feature stores. Because why? These features are already generated. So you are bringing all these personas in one place. When you have different sort of a pipeline, doesn't really matter what technology it is. You can see, you saw that, Vinod just mentioned all the top data pipelines, the connectors out there. So all personas in one place can just reuse it and go with the speed of the business they want to. So that's the beauty about the H2O feature store. It's bringing everybody in one place and collaborate it and go faster.
Thank you, Prince. Makes sense. Then one last and then we'll jump to the demo very quickly. So how does this all come together, right? So if you think about the feature store, it is part of the AI Cloud, like I said, right? So this is the H2O AI Cloud comes with all the components, like you've seen this slide many times before in other webinars if you've been here. But really, the key is it starts with bringing the feature transformation into the feature store. All the intelligence in the organization, the data, the signals, the data, the relationships are brought into the feature store. And then that becomes the starting point for all the machine learning that we can offer, all the engines that we offer. And then for model ops as well, as we deploy models, can read back to the feature store. So this is the entire AI cloud, and this feature store is part of the H2O AI cloud. So if you want to access it, that's how you'll do it. With that, I'm going to step into a demo. So, Prince, I would love for you to maybe show us how you are using Feature Store at AT&T, and maybe we can start with that.
Absolutely. So let me share my screen here. Okay. Vinod, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I'm just showing here, the GUI around this, feature store, right? So obviously, you can see the number of feature sets or features has been, loaded in AT&T standpoint. So I'm going to just, browse one particular, feature and give you a little bit of a, walkthrough, right? So I'm just clicking this advanced search so you can kind of see like, kind of features that is coming out. So I'm just, looked at something called a number reputation model. I know some of the data scientists were working on it. So I'm just clicking on that, particular machine learning model, and I can see that, good thing is that you kind of see it like very detailed, description, right, about each and every, feature set that we have. So you see here, probably I'll just use it here. So this is one common data set, right? It's just available in Kaggle. So maybe it's good to show that data here. This is a project name, and this is one particular machine learning model. They're trying to predict what is the customer churn is going to be. And this is the number of features, right? And you see here, the right-hand side, these are all the different features, right? So you click on one particular feature, then you kind of come to know what is the data type, it's a numerical features, and the description, the version of the features, and then also some of the stats. It's auto generated. You can kind of look at the, gives you a simple easy lookup about your feature, right? Oh, I can see the data set, what I have here, the feature set, max age is 80, all right, and the min is 19. That's the sort of a data set that I'm dealing with, right? And similarly, I mean, you can kind of see that, the different, the data sets, I mean, the features that whatever you have it here in a quick, searchable fashion. And you can also search something like, age, and then that particular feature is coming up. So it has a good, cool, view about knowing the metadata about these features. There are more than about 45 metrics has been stored against a particular feature, actually, right? So for example, the description, when it was created, what is the current version, and each version change you do, what did you do actually to change this nature of this feature set, right? And whether it's just an engineered or is it ready for a production, right? The life cycle of the AI that we talked about. And the data source. I mean, in the organization, you might be calling with the different systems in your organization, but you can also mention the data source. And is it a batch or streaming, or that, this features are ingested in real time or not, those things, it's available. And also model serving. You can also pinpoint that, hey, can you make this feature set available for me during the scoring time, right? Even if it is a deprecated, we can have an indicator here to say it's deprecated, then it is making these features not available for other data scientists if they are shopping around or going to reuse it, right? And then there is a monitoring also in place. If you think about these all features, right, you want to really enable some sort of anomaly detection. In other words, like, you want to know, hey, this particular feature set customer ID is very important for me. It cannot come as a null, or I don't want any drifting happens in that particular field, right? When you are really working on some adversarial, environments, you can also set those things in a feature store. The feature store, takes care of it for the data scientist, that you ingest the feature store, then on the background, it's doing all those things for you. That's why I'm saying I can keep talking about it, each and every data point, but there are more than 45 to 50 metrics has been calculated for each and every feature you're putting into the feature store, and that's been monitored. It helps in data drifting scenario and all other perspective. Also, you can get into the little bit of a compliance. The privacy and compliance is really big one for any organization that we work on, right? And after they, how responsible AI we are creating, that's what it makes, a lot of sense. So you also want to know that your data retention policy, right? I mean, the time to live, you can keep this particular feature set for 2 years, then actually the feature store deprecates the data by itself. So you don't need to have another plumbing work or another team really going after your data and understanding your retention policy and decommissioning it. The feature store takes care of it. And also it gives a good idea for the data scientists if they're shopping around this feature. Hey, I'm actually looking for the last 5 months of data, because that's where I can create a truth label, or I can give truth label from a business standpoint. Then you can look at this time travel to understand what sort of a data out there, the time to travel functionality, right? And then I talked about the compliance, and also you can have some of the indicators saying that this particular feature is anything related to spy data, or a PCI or RPI sort of a data. And then if it is so, then you will go through the legal process, right, to get the approval. That is also baked in part of the feature store. You see there is a compliance, there is an internal review. So all those process also been baked inside this feature. So that's one of the other reason that why we like an AT&T H2O Feature Store. We no need to go out of the feature store, right? It's more like where the data is there. You bring all the personas to in one place. So in previous slide when we were explaining, you can bring the ML engineer, data scientist, and DevOps. Now we are also bringing the compliance people, right? I mean, if you take any organization, there would be one person to take care of the legal aspects. They can come in there in feature store now, and they can contribute, saying that if a particular feature, something like a demographics related feature, the data scientist taking to production, they can really understand your ethics. They can really understand, is that model is biased or not? If it is so, what is the trade-off? They all can contribute here in one place. Not necessarily to send an email around, Excel sheet around, and and it's all been just in one place, right? So this is the high level. I think I did one advanced search, where you can find out, how this feature store, search functionality works.
You
So
mentioned,
anything,
I want to just like say, this has also enabled you to us to bring in citizen data scientists as well to the platform,
oh yeah,
right? They can
well,
also.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's a good one to show here. So you see here, I'm just searched on particular feature set, and I'm looking at this feature set. If you think about the citizen data scientists, most of the time, they kind of tagged it in a different name, organization to organization. Some of them are like business analyst. Some of them, they call it themselves like a data analyst. And some of them are, they call it like a data steward. So basically, they are really domain experts. They know this business very well. They know which data really contributes their business success, or if they want to go for any optimization problem, they know exactly what variables is needed. But unfortunately, they cannot be able to code themselves, right? So there are two personas, I would say, even in citizen data scientist. One can at least write the SQL code, right? I mean, they can be the SQL savvy, right? If that point in place to support that person, we have a concept here. You see the same feature store. We have a code snippet, and where citizen data scientists come to the feature store and look at this feature, and they can get into here. It could be any SQL engine. In this context, we are using, Databricks. So that's where, I'm going there in the SQL standpoint, but it could be anything, right? So just look at here. I went there and I want to query about that particular, feature set. Let me search the same feature set here, to do some sort of, yeah, this is a one, and let me just bring it here, and I can just simply go here and, I'm not going to write a big query here, but something very simple. I'm just doing the lookup on that particular table, um, and I'm running it. You saw that the feature store, you saw that, feature sitting there. Immediately you can get into the SQL and you can write this SQL, right? So just imagine, we all know that this feature store is really a central point for the data scientists and data engineers and DevOps people. But now the citizen data scientists who can write the SQL, they can get in there and they can do the queries they want to, right? So that's amazing, like, enabling that citizen data scientists who can at least write the SQL sort of a code, getting into the feature store. So then the another side of the people out there, they're good in business intelligence, right? They can build a lot of BI reports, like, Power BI, if they are in Azure shop. There is a different BI tools out there, Tableau or MicroStrategy, whatever. But again, the same way, in a seamless fashion, you can feature storage has a lot of connectors that can connect to it, and people can start writing this Power BI dashboards, right? And the same manner, I mean, you go to the feature store, and in the code snippet area, you say that, AT&T we use Power BI, but it could be anything. You just click on it, and then you're getting into the Power BI environment, right? And where you can go and see the Power BI, and then you can have your reports sort of ready, and then you can look at, all the Power BI reports that's there. Again, you see it's a very seamless fashion, right? I mean, you're not kind of looking at coding skills or anything is needed. It's just a button clicks, right? Because what I did, I just come to the feature store, right? And all I did is I just searched on the feature set name that I know of, like a churn, and then immediately I looked into here. If you are a data scientist, you can get into the PySpark environment. That is also in a single click environment. Let me show that quickly. Look, I'm just clicking again. We are using Databricks here as a data pipeline. It could be any pipeline the way we not showed. You see here on single click, I can get into the feature store. It's pulling the data and it's showing me, right? So how easy it is now, I can just go in either Jupyter notebook or anywhere. I can just follow the next set of, either model optimization or a model building. I can get to the next step basically, right? So that's the beauty about the feature store. It's just not enabling the data scientist and citizen data scientists, like, who can write a SQL, can get into an SQL environment. If somebody wants to get into Snowflake, they can also go there in Snowflake and take a SQL workbench, and they can query the feature store. And if somebody is like a BI, dashboard savvy, they can also take this data there and slice and dice and make sense whatever this, so also one more question that we, talked before, even the small company, if they are in the journey of creating their first machine learning model or maybe some matured machine learning model, you do most of the time the EDA, right? I mean, exploratory data analysis. But think about this feature store, you have it in that place. It's not necessarily just building the model, right? You can also be like a data steward and query the data and build the credibility around the data so that you can get to the next step of creating this machine learning model. So it's kind of covering all the personas in the organization in one platform, in one unified framework. That's what the H2O feature store. Right, Vinod, back to you.
Thank you, Prince. I was trying to use that. No, it's really valuable just to see how the feature store is used in AT&T, right? And I want to some point of like a couple of the other work we could do with the platform, right? So this is not just a tool for doing simple pulling of data, retrieving of data. We can go beyond that. So that's and we've seen enterprises at different sizes, right? They're not just from like AT&T scale, but also smaller enterprises still get the value, right? So that's what I want to point it out, right? So one of the things I want to maybe quickly show over here today is how do you access the feature store from the notebook and you get the same. So Prince showed us the UI really quick. I want to show us the notebook real quick. And hopefully you're able to see my environment on the side. Perfect. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just run through. I have pre-run this notebook, cookbook style, so we'll just show you what the results are. But very easy to connect to the feature store, right? So all you have to do is a feature store URL, connect to it. And once you're connected, whatever your auth mechanism, in this case, we are running this in our Azure environment, but this could very easily be running in your AWS environment or GCP or your on-prem cloud as well. So you just connect to it. The feature store supports all kinds of single sign-ons. We connect to your enterprise auth. Once you are in the feature store, it's very easy to access. So you basically go access to your project name. You can, in this case, we create a new project called this project, which has a customer lifetime value, some information about it. Once that's done, we can then show the different sources. In this case, we're going to ingest a data set from the customer lifetime value public data set from an S3 location, public S3 location. So all you need to do is provide the source to the feature store, and it can just go pull the data set over here. Once the data set is pulled in, what we do is we service something called as extract schema. So nice thing about registering a feature set is you don't need to read every single data step or value in order to find out the data types. You can do this extract schema from a CSV file or from whatever format you're bringing in. And once you extract the schema, this is what we're doing over here. This is the schema of that file. We can just use that exact same schema to reach the feature set. So it's super easy. It's super convenient. You don't have to write down every single step, every single data type. You use the same data values and create the registered feature set. And now the feature set is going to have the same schema that you provided. And once it's registered, you then ingest the data. So you upload the data set, basically just as a step to push the data in the feature store. By default, it's stored in the offline store. You have an option to create an online cache if you want, but in this case, we start with just the offline store. Well, nice thing about this is the same process. The ingest ingest is the same way you would ingest any feature set from anywhere, whether it's from Snowflake or Databricks environment or other places. So the workflow you use there is exactly going to be reproducible. So when you write pipelines that are going to pump data in every night or exactly whatever time frame you have, you use the same format to push data into the feature store. Once the features are in the feature store, you can do a retrieve. That's how you would access the feature set. You can access it directly in the Python notebook, or you can do just download and you can get the local file. So there's multiple options. You can read the feature sets as a data frame and convert it to a CSV file. So in this case, we do it in Parquet, right? So you can see this is the feature store, the set that actually pulled in. You can convert it into pandas data frame and start operating on it. So if you're a data scientist, you do a fs.retrieve, get the feature set, then convert it to pandas and start working into data frame and work on it. And then you can do everything you do in Python. You can create nice charts. You can create dashboards, up to you. Now, when you're ready to go to build a model, so this is the nice part. So Feature Store has a native integration to the H2O driverless engine, which is, as you might be familiar, is one of the only in the automobile engines in the world that actually does feature engineering for you. So it not just goes and builds automatic models, it actually does the feature engineering as well. And the nice thing of that is that it creates a lot of new transformations for you in the feature set. So and feature sets. And those features can now be bought back into the feature store. So if let's say driverless AI discovered some amazing new unique features, those features can be published back, like new interaction effects, for example, or new transformations of the feature, those can be put back into the feature store for future use. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to connect to a driverless instance. We're going to initiate it through the driverless client here, H2O Steam. We just initiate an instance launch. Once driverless AI instance has started, you would then go in and access that instance directly from the client, build a model, and we would register a module. So basically say, go build the model. And then once the model is built, we say, now we actually really care about the derived features. So derived features is when we are taking the original feature set and transform it to driverless AI. So in this case, we created the derived feature set. And that derived feature set is now added to the feature store as well. So, and if I can maybe show you in the front end as well, right? If I go to my just GUI, go back to the projects. So you have, let's say, so this is like the churn raw data set, raw feature set, and then this one is basically the derived feature set. And in the derived feature set, you will see certain additional type of features, like transform features showing up. So that's how it works. So derived feature sets will create these additional feature sets, and features, those will be published into the feature store itself. Right? So you take the raw and the derived ones. And just like Prince showed earlier, you can look at different, in this case, this feature is marked as sensitive. So it is going to be masked by default. As you can see the values themselves, right? Well, let me go back to my notebook over here. Once that is done, we can then connect to our envelope service, also running on H2O AI Cloud, and start to connect to the features, the model to the feature store endpoint. So we have the feature store now published as an online store, and we're going to hit the same endpoint to basically store the record. And the nice thing with that is that we can retrieve the experiment ID, we can run it, and then we can store it. And after that is done, we can basically we deploy the model, we check the deployment health, and we can run all the way to the bottom. Time. We can basically score the real-time input. So this is where we are doing. After the model is deployed, we're going to basically call the endpoint and say, keep scoring it. And the way the endpoint is going to get the real values is in the feature store. So instead of pulling the data from different places, doing transformation on the fly, it's just going to go hit the feature store and say, give me these values for this individual rows. And feature store will provide the value, MLOps will score, the endpoint will score it, and we get final predictions over here. So I know that's a very, very fast run through the demo, but this is how you would access the feature store and use it. You can do the same thing in Databricks, you can do the same thing in Snowflake, whatever environment you choose. Creating features super easy, access them super easy, and you can start doing both these things.
And Vinod, I mean, I see some questions like, can we show the online feature store how it works too? Can I show that?
Yeah, please. Sure. So let's see where you can show it.
Okay. I'm getting into my feature store now. Let me share quickly before. Okay, so Vinod, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. So I just get into some advanced search here. I just want to pick one model and do some online the feature store lookup, right? So you see when you come into this particular feature set, there are a bunch of this all cooked up data what you see here, but you see that there are a lot of features that out there. If you are a telecommunication company, you try to look at it, your customers, the inbound call, outgoing call, and all that sort of things. Data scientists come up with created lot of velocity features and but they want to do the real-time scoring of it, right? So this features that whatever you see in the online feature store, even if you created an offline and you want to make say that, hey, I want this to be available during the scoring time, you see this is a flag. All you're doing is you're editing the feature set and setting the flag as a true. Okay, doesn't matter the H2O feature store behind the scenes or underneath. It has a offline feature set where it have really a scalability issue. It takes care of however big data you want to put in there. Similarly, online should be the different challenge, right? It has to work in seconds, in sub-seconds, in milliseconds, based on your use case. So it does all the syncing capability, between this data source as well, right? So even if you put some features in offline, but you want to make those features available in online, all you try to do is just simply go there and edit a button and say model serving true. That's it. It's immediately available, right? And then at the point in time, you can also say that, look, when I'm going to do the lookup, my key is going to be telephone number here. CTN is telephone number, right? So I can just say that this is my primary key is going to be. So then immediately that particular feature set and the features is available through the API, right? So now sky is the limit for you. Your any systems in your organization can just execute, talk to that feature store through the APIs, which provides in the milliseconds response. So let me show you one quick lookup. You can also test that functionality before even exposing as an API, because this feature store gives out of the box that API functionality. You don't need to do anything, right? So let me show you. I'm just picking up one particular telephone number randomly, and I know that this particular CTN is telephone number is available in this particular feature set. And see, this is also mentioned as a primary key, sort of, right? This particular symbol it shows is a primary key. You can also have secondary key if it is needed, but in this case, it's very simple. Do it. So then you can come here to test the waters. You click on this online feature store and you put your primary key, right? And then all you're doing is to submit, right? You see, it happens really very fast. The moment you did that, that particular telephone number, immediately it's bringing all the data that associated with that particular CTN number in the feature store. Data scientists just ingested it in your Databricks or Python environment, right, out of the box, right? So that's the another beauty about how actually this feature store helps or giving these features for people who want to during the model scoring time or inference time, or you want to enable as an API and all those sort of things, right? The reason I said the sky is the limit, the again, I mean, going back to a little bit about the citizen data scientists, right? um, there is also an integration automation happens across our organization, right? You might be having a customer care. That customer care is talking to the actual customers if they have some service issue, or they are talking about some payment issue, or they are talking. So oftentimes you want to take this data or this machine learning models, this AI outcomes in the hands of those people who's sitting there, right, in the care agent. So let me show you one more functionality. This feature store also enabling, the agent, right? So let me work on this. I'm just clicking on this feature store agent, and think about, this could be your care agent sitting there, right? So of course it's going through the security side of it. Let me put my credentials there quickly. It's asking the token, the way the data scientist using it, it's going to pretty much ask that. So let me copy quickly my token so that I can just invoke it. So I'm providing that particular thing. Then it's asking, this bot is asking basically, right? The chat bot, the agent bot is asking, what do you want to do, right? So the care agent, customers call and they want to know, this customer will churn or not and things like that. They can just talk to feature store, and let me go and look at the same CTN that we were just looking at it quickly. Let me copy this particular telephone number, and then I come here and provide that telephone number, and I entered it. Basically what happens now, the model scoring, everything is happening behind the scenes, right? It came back the model score it's a 31% risk associated with this particular, phone number or something like that, right? So again, this all cook up data, what you see. But very clearly, the same feature store, it helped for the data scientists or data engineers to create those features. And the same feature store helped the DevOps or model ops person to deploy those features for model scoring, right? The same feature store, it helped the citizen data scientists where it can get into the SQL environment, can get into Power BI. Now, even it's enabling through the automations a chatbot, right? So who doesn't even know how the feature store works and things like that. But if you onboarded yourself, you can also talk to the machine learning model in real time when you're addressing your customers. So that's a sort of the use case level. This H2O feature store is providing the multiple agnostic cloud, agnostic pipeline, and agnostic personas in an organization. Everybody can make use of this feature store. It's really a cool, water cooler for all the personas in the organization.
Thank you, Prince. I know we are almost out of time. We did have time with really good, a lot of really interesting questions on the Q&A and the chat. I ended up answering a bunch of those. So thank you again for joining us today. We will, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please reach out to us directly at H2O, support H2O.ai, or contact H2O.ai. My email is also on the slides. We know that H2O.ai. Feel free to reach out directly if you have questions about the platform or to get access to it. We'd love to see you try it. If you want to take it for a spin, hit us up. We can give you a demo environment or a POC environment or try the feature store. We'd love for you to see it and play it in your organization and see if you can get the same benefits like AT&T did. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Prince, for joining us and sharing a great presentation and demo of how you're using and sharing beautiful insights.